Welcome to the Richard Sherman podcast. If you're new, hit that sub button. We're here to give you great NFL content. Stay tuned.
We look at the Texans. They take out the Colts. This game was a lot closer than a lot of folks thought it would be. You know, you talked about Saquon Barkley and how important he was to the Eagles. I think an argument can be made that Joe Mixon is having that same effect with this Houston Texans team. I mean, he's having an amazing year. It's 100-plus yards in 4 of the last 5 games for him. But I think the story of this game is Anthony Richardson. You were talking about it. We were texting during the game, and you said he's a flat-out liability. At what point are the Colts going to make the change at quarterback and go with our guy, Joe Flacco? Because it certainly looks like if they want to win, they got to put Flacco in. Your thoughts on that, Rich?
Well, first off, I want to give Joe Mixon a lot of love because obviously a friend of the program again, but I don't think we're talking enough about how much the Bengals miss him and what he's brought to the Texans. When he was hurt, their run game looked totally different. He comes back 100 yards in 4 of the last 5 games, and he's getting tough yards. He's punishing. He's running behind his shoulder pads. He looks really good in the pass game as well, and he really just stabilizes this offense, gives C.J. Stroud a safety blanket, comfort, and even when he's struggling a little bit or he's off a little bit, he can just turn around, hand it off to Joe Mixon 25-plus times. There are very few backs in the National Football League that can still consistently carry the ball 25 times, 20-plus times over any amount of games. And so you got to give Joe Mixon a tip of the cap because he's been able to do that. But Anthony Richardson has not been good. And you can really see the difference if you just side by side compare he and Joe Flacco, who's obviously a veteran, has played at a high level in this game. But they're not going to give up on Anthony Richardson. They're going to let him work his way through that. He made some good passes in this game, but I know if they had Joe Flacco in there, the Houston Texans would feel a lot more unsure and uncertain about their ability to beat the Indianapolis Colts. But this is the league we're in. They're not going to play the best guy. They're not going to play a guy that can win them games just because they're going to play him. You know, they're working for the future, and they think Anthony Richardson is the future. And just because he's not playing well now doesn't mean he won't play well later. But if you're looking to win now, Joe Flacco showed you that he can be really effective with these same guys. He can throw for 300-plus yards, really be productive with this offense with the same exact guys. And then you watch Anthony Richardson complete 35% of his passes over the last 2 games since returning from injury. It's just not good enough to win games. And the Colts are still in a lot of these games. They're still one-score games, or they won. They won. They beat the Miami Dolphins with him not playing really good on offense. And they had a chance to beat the Houston Texans with him struggling as much as he did. I think he was 5 of 19 at one point in this game. So you would think, hey, if you just made a little bit of a change, but these are some of the decisions they make. I remember watching Ryan Fitzpatrick play really good football with the Miami Dolphins. Maybe this was Flores' second year.
Yep.
This was Tua Tagovailoa's first year. And then all of a sudden they made a change at quarterback and Tua was not ready. It was clear that either he wasn't ready or this offense just didn't fit his skill set. And then they let him struggle all game for, under 100 yards, throwing under 100 yards, and then bring Fitz in like the last 2 drives of the game and say, try to win us the game. And it's just like at some point or another, like somebody has to look at these GMs and decision makers and say, hey, maybe they need to switch these guys out. Maybe we need to put some other people in these positions because it really just doesn't make sense. I understand you're trying to say, hey, we're going to develop him and you can only develop through live reps. But if you're a player in that locker room, you have to be looking like, man, we just saw what Joe Flacco could do. You saw Josh Downs with Joe Flacco and how incredibly effective he was. You saw Pittman with Joe Flacco and how effective he was. You just saw the offense putting up points. Just the scheme works. Everything works. And then you put Anthony Richardson in there and you're still in games, but it's just because you got a really good team. You got a defense that makes plays, that puts enough pressure, that a special teams that's disciplined, doesn't give up big plays. But you're not getting enough offensively. You're not getting as much offensively as you could with Joe Flacco. And that has to be frustrating for the players that have been there for both quarterbacks.
There's no question. And unlike Tua Tagovailoa, Anthony Richardson I think a lot of folks, and I'm no NFL scout, Richard, but he had completion percentage issues at Florida. The volume was just not there. I mean, this 10-32, that was something that I think Florida Gator fans were used to seeing when he was at Florida. So I think a lot of folks were surprised to see him go as high as he did in the draft in the first place. So maybe this isn't his fault, Rich. Maybe this is folks that are, overanalyzing his game because he's an incredible athlete, can throw the ball 80 yards, but he's not accurate. He's not like Tua. Tua was a gunslinger in Alabama, led the team to national championships. So, like, yeah, I know you were upset back then, but I would put Joe Flacco in, give this Colts team an opportunity to win week in, week out, and develop Anthony Richardson a little bit more behind a proven veteran. But we'll see.
That's part of development. Like, watch how Joe Flacco does it. Watch how he prepares. Watch how he throws it. I ask him questions. See how he's getting through games, how he talks, how he watches film on the sideline during games. But you're wasting away a really solid, really talented team for no reason. And it's not Anthony Richardson's fault, but it is the people who keep putting him out there when there is a better option on your team.
The Chiefs go to 7-0. They beat the Raiders. No one's surprised by that. Mahomes finally throws his first 2 TDs in October. Kareem Hunt, his 4th touchdown since being back with the team. I mean, the Chiefs are 7-0. I know we talked about it last week. The likelihood of them running the table and going undefeated is slim. And you said you probably want a loss on the record so that you don't have to go in to the playoffs undefeated. But what is it really going to take to knock this Chiefs team off track? Because it just doesn't seem like it matters who they play. They always rise to the occasion. How are you approaching this Chiefs team, Richard?
You're going to have to find a way to score points on this defense. Their offense has struggled at times. They've been able to take the ball away from Patrick Mahomes at times. But Kareem Hunt looks really good. That run game is really strong. The interior of their offensive line is as good as there is in National Football League. So you're going to have to be able to match that. You're going to have to be able to put some D linemen down there who can really compete with them. The interior offensive line, you're going to have to be able to cover their receivers. They just got DeAndre Hopkins and still working him into the fold. Travis Kelce looked a lot better in this game. 10 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown. That should be alarming for a lot of people because if he gets in rhythm and they get hot again with him, especially with all the injuries they've had and the guys out, they're going to be hard to beat again. And as long as he's in there and Patrick Mahomes is in there, they're going to be a tough out. But defensively, again, they're a defensive team now with a great quarterback, an all-time quarterback. But Spags is calling unbelievable games, giving a lot of people a lot of tough outs. You saw how they played against the San Francisco 49ers, forced 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions from Brock Purdy. And they just continue to impact these games in a huge way. Chris Jones and that defensive line, George Karlaftis, Bolton and those boys on the second level continue to impact them. But you're going to have to score points. They're going to have to score points in bunches, and you're going to have to turn the ball over, and you're going to have to stop the run in order to beat this team. And nobody has done that. That's why they're 7-0.
They're going to be a tough out.